Welcome back to The Narrative. I'm your storyteller, Callistra Farrier. On April 27, Wellington Wello Welsh was shot on the streets of Victoria, St. Mark's, his hometown. It is believed that the shots came from the bullet which went through his head came from the gun of a police officer, Inspector Kellon Noel, a former sergeant of arms in the Royal Grenada Police Force, and the officer in charge of the Victoria Police Station at the time when the St. Mark Day Festival was happening, a festival in honor of St. Mark's Day. Wellington Welsh died a few days later in hospital, devastating the community of St. Mark, but it reached further outside of the borders of Grenada. And one woman who was seriously affected by the loss of Wellington Wello Welsh is Guadelupe Bolanos. She's the ex-wife of Wellington. They met in 2004 while she was in Grenada as a member of the Peace Corps. In 2014, they were married. They were divorced later on, but Lupe, as she's known by the family of Wello and her friends, is devastated by this loss. She joins me now on the narrative to talk about Wello, to remember him, to talk about what his loss means to her and the Victoria community on a whole. Lupe, Guadalupe, welcome to the narrative. It's good to have you here. Sorry it is
Thank
not
you.
under better circumstances.
Thank you, Callistra. I'm glad
Now,
to be here.
yeah, when you reached out to me, you described getting married to Wello on April 19, 2014. You said on that day you were the happiest woman in the world, uh, but you had met him in 2006 in Grenada,
Correct.
and you dated between the period of 2006 to 2008 while you were a volunteer in Grenada. What
Yes.
was your experience with Wello like?
Um, my experience, I would definitely say that it was an amazing experience. My service, even in the Peace Corps, would not have ever been the same if I had never met him. Wello was well known in the community, very charismatic, very helpful. Anytime somebody needed help, he was there. When I met him, I ended up meeting him at Fish Fry at Guav, and we hung out, we started talking, and that's how we started dating. But anytime I was around him, anytime I was in the community, and if I said his name, like, people would help me, people would always assist us. I remember a killer time when we were partying very late at one of the other towns down the road, and the buses stopped running. It was very late at night and we had no ride. We were standing there by the road, and two motorcycles pulled up, and they immediately stopped as soon as they saw him. It seemed like everybody in the town and the island actually knew him, and they said, "We can give you guys a ride back." So he hopped on one motorcycle, I hopped on the other, and we rode back to Victoria. Like, anytime I was around this man, people, like, it was almost like walking with a celebrity. You had to give yourself more time, because everywhere he went, Wello here, Wello there. And it was amazing. He was always very helpful, very loving, loved nature, loved animals. He loved his children. He loved Victoria, loved Grenada. That was one of the reasons why he wanted to come back home, and our relationship didn't work out. He missed his children, he missed his community, and it's just very devastating. When I heard, I was very shocked. I was very completely shocked, because I never thought that Wello would end up like this in his own village, celebrating with his own people.
How did you hear the news of the tragedy?
So it was that evening, I was finishing doing some chores around the house, and I ended up checking my email. And one of the volunteers that actually also served in Victoria, which is Christopher Crown, also very close to Wello, messaged me, emailed me, and told me that Wello had just been shot. So I just sat there and I was in disbelief. And seconds later, one of his friends that currently lives here, one of Wello's friends, Brent, he married one of the ladies that was at the vet school in St. George, and he actually lives here in California. He called me immediately. As soon as I saw his name on the screen, I knew it wasn't, because at first I thought it was a joke. I couldn't believe it. But as soon as I saw his name on the screen and I picked up the phone, and he confirmed that he had also heard that Wello had just been shot, and that we didn't know. I didn't know for a couple of days if he was alive or if he had actually passed on.
And eventually the news came that because he died at the hospital about 2 days, 2 or so days
2 days
later.
later.
Yes.
Yes, yes,
And then you got that news,
correct. Yeah. Then I
which
was
I'm
in
sure totally
communication.
was devastating.
Very much, yes, very much, because we still had hope that maybe he could be flown to another island or maybe to the United States so that they could do surgery. But unfortunately, he passed on the 29th.
And you got in communication with his relatives. He has a niece called Salome Julian. His
Correct.
sister, his closest sister, who she actually was in the States at the time, Gemeline Julian. She actually raised Wello. I
Yes.
mentioned you to her a few days ago, and she laughed and she said, "Oh yeah, Lupe." Um, and did say that they've been talking to you. So how was the communication between the family going? Are you coming
It's
to
been very
Grenada?
nice. It's been very nice to feel included. They have kept me updated with everything that's been going on with the funeral and also with the situation with the police officer. Um, and I just recently heard, I believe that Wello's aunt passed away yesterday in the morning. So it just seems that the family's not getting any type of break. But it's unfortunate. But it's very nice to hear back from the people in Victoria, especially his family members.
Mm. Oh, his aunt died.
Correct.
Oh, sad news. More sad news for the family. Now, you will you be coming to Grenada for the funeral? They're going to put Wello to rest on June 13. There's going to be his sister Gemelin. She has said that they will have the homegoing ceremony, the homegoing at the Victoria Pasture, which I'm sure you're familiar with if you served in the
Right.
town as a Peace Corps volunteer. So, and one of the things they're going to do is to have it in the style of the way Wello lived his life. He was the life of the party. I saw
Yes.
a video after he was shot of him dancing in a yellow bathing suit in Victoria, in some event or the other in Victoria. And I said, that is Wello, the class clown, life of the
Yes.
party, the guy who makes you smile and it's just, gay abandon, having a good time. Will you be coming to Grenada to help send him home?
Unfortunately, I will not be able to be due to work commitments. I would love to go back and give his family my condolences and be there with the community, but unfortunately, I will not be able to attend.
So, justice was one of the things you mentioned in our earlier conversation. As you know, a police officer was arrested and charged for non-capital murder, and also other people were shot. Three other people were shot on that day. They fortunately survived, and so the police officer is also charged for grievous harm against them. But he was granted bail by the system through the High Court, which our law allows to happen, that you can apply to the High Court for certain levels of offenses that you are charged with. What do you hope will, um, how do you hope this will progress? Do you have any concerns about the process of justice?
Well, I've been hearing some stuff over the internet that a lot of the community members in Victoria and the island itself are afraid that justice will not be served. But I strongly believe that we should put all our faith on the justice system and let it go through, let it follow through. It's unfortunate also what the police officer's family is dealing with. I don't know if he acted in a he was I don't know if he was drinking. I really don't know the details of the situation or what exactly happened. But to hear that he just opened fire on a community that is full of people that are celebrating with children, with family, I was very surprised. I just hope that justice is served, that Wello's death doesn't go in vain, and that at least if changes can be made to the community, to especially to the police workforce, the police force, that
Mm.
especially training, if something can be done, maybe this officer needed more training. I don't know exactly what happened, but I do definitely hope that justice is served, especially for his children, for the community, and that this never happens again in the future.
Mm. This is a senior officer of several years of experience. He actually rose to the rank of inspector and had command of the police station in Victoria, and was also the sergeant of arms of the police force as well. So he is well experienced and has had access to the training that is available as you go through the ranks of the police force. You do say one of the position you have taken is that two families destroyed by this, um, and
Right,
that you hope that justice is served. You said, I'm sure that he's having a hard time. So you're also, showing a lot of empathy, despite the fact that Wello, someone who was so dear and close to you, um, died in as a result of his alleged actions. You
right.
still are feeling some sort of emotion towards the police officer and his family as well.
Of course, because he's also a human being, and I'm sure he's feeling devastated. I'm sure he also knew Wello. I don't think this was done intentionally. That's just my opinion, because everybody knew Wello. He was never somebody that wanted to fight.
Lupe, I want to talk to you a little bit about when Wello came to, because you left in 2008 and then he came to you, you petitioned for him, and he came to you in 2014 um, to California. So you stayed in touch for 6 years or so. Um,
Yes.
when he came to you, tell me about him living with you in the United States, and how it all was. Talk to me about your
Okay.
life together, if you don't mind.
Wello came to the United States about, I believe it was January of 2014. And since he came in a K1 visa, we had to get married within 90 days. So the wedding happened very quickly. It happened on April 19th. But as you said, we stayed in contact through the whole time. Eventually, he dated other people and I dated other people. But I was always in love with him. So when I called him back and I said that if he was, I went back to school. The reason why I didn't want to get married when I first left was because I wanted to get my master's degree. So I came back to the United States. I completed my studies. After I graduated in 2012, my dad asked me, "What is it that you want for your graduation?" And I said, "Fly me back to Grenada." So I went back to Grenada. I spent a whole week with him and with other friends in the island. And it was like we picked up like I had never left. So that's when I decided to call him and asked him if he wanted to come and join me and get married. And he said yes. So once he came, it was like I had never left. Like we picked up right where we left off. It was a little challenging for him because it's a completely different world here. It's a very independent. It's not like Grenada where you can go outside and talk to your neighbor and they lend you a hand. Here is very. It's a selfish country. It's me first. So it was a little challenge for him. I helped him get a job. He got his driver's license, which was he was very proud about. He did great with that. My family loved him. My nieces still remember him. They were little and now they're teenagers, they're young ladies, and they were also very sad to hear about his passing. My whole family loved him. He was always very the life of the party, making jokes, dancing. Never was Wello upset, or he was a very friendly man. But I had to. I'm actually in a federal officer also in law enforcement. So I left for 4 months to join an academy. So when I left him to stay with my mother in my sister's house. He took care of my sister's house while he was alone, and I believe this was a little challenging for him when I left for the academy for to complete my academy there and become an officer. He felt like I had left him alone, but he continued to go to work. He worked at this warehouse. He had the support of my family. He spent Christmas with them. And once I got back and I got moved to San Francisco to start my new position, he later joined me. He stayed in LA for a couple months and then he later joined me. And he got a job working at a big Sam's Club, and he was working the night shift. And I noticed that he started getting very depressed and slept a lot. So, and he told me that he really missed Grenada, he missed his children. And I really told him to wait, to hold on, that we would petition for his kids when I would be able to get more money and be more established. And or that he could also wait for his green card and go visit them and spend some couple months over there. But he had already set his mind. He was very a little bit impatient, and he decided to go back to Grenada. He really missed the community, sense of community, everybody in Victoria, but especially his daughter and his son. So it broke my heart. It was a very challenging time for me. Um, and unfortunately, after he left, I never spoke to him again. Um, it was very
You
difficult
say
for me
that,
to get over him.
and you say that you eventually realize with time that Wello belonged in Grenada with his people
Correct.
and his community. That's what brought him happiness. Um,
Yes, that's
but you
correct.
were not. You regret now that you kept that distance from him once he returned to Grenada. You did
Yes,
say
I
that
wish
you.
I had at least told him that I was no longer upset, that I understood that it was very hard for him to be here, that I knew he wanted to be with his children, and he loved being. That's what made him happy, Grenada and his people in Victoria. That's my biggest regret, that I never got to speak to him again and tell him that I held no grudges, that I loved him and respected him, and I wished him the best. And I heard he had been doing good. He had a good job. He had another lady. He was in love, I believe, and he was happy. So I was very shocked and devastated when I heard that he had passed.
Hmm. How would you want Wello to be remembered?
Oh, I definitely want to remember him, and want everybody to remember him as the charismatic, tall man with a big smile, always laughing, always willing to lend a hand, always cracking a joke, um, just in love with life. That's how I want people to remember him. Somebody that was never looking for fights, somebody that is always as a peacemaker, a very hardworking man, full of ideas, very smart, always thinking forward. Love the gardens, love the nature. Just somebody very positive, full of life. That's how I want everybody to remember him. Very loving.
Lupe, you are in law enforcement, so you have uh, a strong knowledge of how things are supposed to happen when the police responds, for instance, in the situation of a violent brawl and what is supposed to happen. Do you?
Yes, ma'am. I just don't can't speak on it because I don't know the facts. I haven't seen video. I haven't seen any versions of what the witnesses saw. So I'd rather not speak on it because I wasn't there. I don't know exactly what happened. But
And
from
so what transpired, what you heard transpired, which is what the prosecution here in Grenada is working with, is that Officer Inspector Kellon Noel discharged live rounds while there was this huge fight going on, bottles pelting, people were being violent. Wello, of course, was the peacemaker in all of this. He was actually trying to help quell the brawl. In fact, he called the police to come attend to the situation and was there trying to, pat the fight, as we say, and this bullet got into his head. Um, do you believe would that sort of action of an officer discharging his weapon, no matter what was going on, unless it was imminent danger of someone's life being lost, um, that would it be regulation and procedure to fire live rounds into a crowded
no,
street?
yeah, just from this brief explanation that you're giving me, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't say it is unless he saw somebody else in the crowd with a gun or a machete. I don't know, but for me, it doesn't sound reasonable that he would uh, draw his weapon and start shooting when we're surrounded with people. Because one of the rules is you always need to shoot to know where you're shooting and what's beyond it. So if we're in the middle of a crowd with lots of people, I don't. He could have used something else. Does he have something else on his belt? Maybe he had a baton. Did he have any pepper spray? So there's a lot of things that we can say and we can ask, but I cannot speak too much on it since I don't know what exactly transpired.
As we wrap up this interview, Lupe, I want to go back a little bit to you say you met Wello at Fish Friday in Guav, which is quite a popping event. Tell me
Yes.
about that initial meeting. How, I mean, because you didn't meet in Victoria, which is where he's from and where you were based, but at Fish Friday. How did you meet and begin to, and when did you realize that you loved this man?
Well, let me correct that because we actually met up in Guav. He actually, I somebody had already pointed him out. One of the volunteers that was living also in Victoria, a female, told me that Wello was one of the most handsome men in the island. And one time we were at an event in one of the schools in Victoria, and she pointed him out, and I saw him from far, and I said, oh yes, he's very attractive, he looks very nice. So then one time I was on the bus about to get off on Victoria, and he sat right next to me, and he looked at me and he said, are you going to fish fry this Friday? And I said, yes, I'll be there with some of my volunteer friends. And he's like, okay, I'll see you there. So then when I showed up to Guav, he was there, and we started talking, we started hanging out, he started meeting all the volunteers, and we had a great time that time. Little by little we just started hanging out again, and it's just, if you ask anybody in town, especially the women, everybody loved Wello. Wello was a ladies man. Wello was very, very, very charismatic, and very quiet also at times, very serious, but just a very loving man. Anything you needed, you felt protected around him. Always safe with him. It was hard not to fall in love with him.
Guadalupe Bolanos, I want to just express to you also my condolences on the passing of
Thank you.
Wellington Wello Welsh, your former husband and a man whom you describe as the love of your life, someone whom you loved deeply, having met him in Grenada during the period 2006 to 2008 when you were Peace Corps volunteer here. And I want to wish you all the best and say thank you for sharing your
Thank you.
stories and sharing your memories of Wello with us here on The Narrative. Thank you so much. All the best.
Thank you.